was possible to marry up different things in a different career, and wasn't really sure what to do, so decided to focus on raising my family. And then a few years later started to realize what I really love to do is I want to help and inspire people. And I started different things, and I tried. I was Weight Watchers leader for a while because that was a chance to speak and to motivate and inspire people all around a topic that I was particularly interested in, which was health. And having been a Weight Watchers member, I knew what it had brought to my life. And then eventually I started my own business, and I thought I really love doing group work. I did some deep career reflection for myself to discover that, and was guided through a really intensive process where I discovered I love to help people figure out, what do I do well? How do I do it even better? To do it in a way that worked for me and my family, it meant starting my own business. And I often joke, and I think I've shared this with you, I have no business being in business because I don't have a business background. And I knew that would fit my life. And I figured I could figure it out. And 16 years later, here I am. And so I did start with some help, some coaching and mentoring along the way. I started a business called Open to Possibilities, where I worked with teams and organizations and leaders to help them with communication, effectiveness, and helping people thrive. That has evolved, that I've connected with amazing people, that we started really looking at how do people learn, and how do we help people learn, and how do we meet the talent needs that are here right now? How do we help people develop themselves so that they can find or create those best fit opportunities? And all of those conversations and collaborations have led to us starting InceptionU, which is where I am now. And with InceptionU, our aim is that you learn how to learn and that you are equipped for the future.
So that is so true. You are a visionary leader, and you're in leadership as well as organization development. Not only that, like, I have seen you in action, how you're able to pull things from the air like a magician, and you're able to then strategize. No, honestly, Margo, I was just like, I've seen you in action. So folks, if you are a business leader, if you are having sessions, please, 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 there are facilitators, trainers who are following a systematic path, but the way things are going, and this is very important, especially with COVID, and how people have had to not go according to the path that they have known, because we don't know about the future. And that is how your creativity really shows up, and that's what the session is about. You have been keeping pace with the ever-changing business, and especially with what COVID has done, you continue to pioneer innovative approaches. So how do you come across that, and how do you then help individuals and organizations realize their potential? Because honestly, a magician.
Thank you. Those are great questions, Alnoor. And I have to credit people who have helped me discover some of those things. I've had some amazing mentors and coaches myself along the way. And some of those foundational principles that were shared with me early on in my own development and figuring out the craft that I wanted to offer to the world were, that the agenda is theirs, not mine. To be highly present and to listen deeply, and that my role is really to have the questions, not the answers. And where I operate from too, and again, the amazing colleagues I've been able to connect with and collaborate with, is truly knowing there is no single pathway forward. There is no single recipe for success. And so I've continually seen that part of my role, whether I'm facilitating, whether I'm coaching, whether I'm co-collaborating with a client to find and create that best way forward, is that they have the answers. They're the ones in the business, not me. And so it's to pull that out of them and then to create and design an opportunity for people to have those discoveries and to help companies create the conditions in their company. You can't change. COVID's shown us for sure. You have zero ability to influence what's happening external to your company. There are things that are going to happen that you have to be able to respond to. What a company, what an organization has the ability to do, though, is to create the conditions inside their company that will see that the individuals thrive, that the products thrive, and that they're able to respond to the ever-changing external conditions. And that's by being, how do I do that? I do it by being super open, hopefully modest, and not thinking I've got the answer, and by probing and asking the questions so that we can find what is their best pathway forward.
You are really humble. Seriously, Margo. Again, you talk about having people around you, but you do create those opportunities. And I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But I even remember how you had reached out and you wanted this collaboration to take place. And you talked about fauna and you talked about bio. And oh my gosh, you were just, and that is the beauty about you, is that you are very open, and I think that is also the creative leadership. You are also very much of a servant leadership. You don't mind rolling up your sleeves and getting down on your knees and getting dirty and all of those, because I've seen you in the classrooms trying to pull apart wires, and you know what, if this doesn't work, turning it off doesn't work. It's those things that are really those super wires. And, I have more people who have joined us as well. Hi, Jane. Jane is from Ontario. Welcome. She was a co-host in May during Mental Health Month. And she is such a lovely angel. Oh, my God. So where I was going with that is that creating those opportunities when the doors knock, is I read this lovely Instagram post, and I wanted to give first of all, before we go there, how did you ever connect with Sandra Oh? And I know you've talked about her. You go to the award shows, and you know what? It's how has that relationship evolved as well?
Well, we were in grade 1 together. So we've known each other since we were 6 years old. And I think that's a real testament to who she is and what our friendship is, that we are still friends after all of these years. I'd like to say we've known each other since we were 6, and that's been 20 years. It's been longer than that. And we evolved our... Yeah, exactly. We've evolved our friendship together as well. And that's by each of us on our own doing a lot of work on ourselves, and then sharing that with each other and growing in that friendship together. We ground each other. So we ground each other, we support each other, and we also allow each other to be who we are through all those evolutions. And I think that's a testament to how our friendship has lasted as long as it has.
That's lovely. And I'll get to Jen's question in just a little moment, is that it was, you posted recently on Instagram, and yes, you can find Margo on Instagram, on Twitter, as well as on LinkedIn. And it says Margo Possible. You better believe it. She removes that, and she is the I am of the impossible, and says I am possible. So yes, Margo Possible. And so you attended this event, and people happened to be there. And it's also bizarre that, once we connected face-to-face at the Calgary Public Library here in Shaughnessy, and it was like bizarre. Oh my God, we are practically neighbors in a way. But even attending this event, it's not about, when you network with the purpose of giving back and creating those soul connections. And that is a leadership quality that is not being seen as much, is because people are hurting a lot. And with mental health and mental illness that's going on, which we haven't seen as yet what's going to happen, unfortunately. You are taking everything in consideration, and how you forge and build those relationships and open those doors. What happened with that? Can you please share with us how you were able to connect those dots and create an impactful journey for yourself?
So again, it helps that I've been friends with someone who's very generous in sharing some of those experiences. And so Sandra had contacted me and was talking about, and well, we'll go to New York, and then and the event's this day, and then we'll go to Ottawa. And I thought, what event in New York? And she said, oh, the Time Magazine Top 100 Gala. I'd like you to be my date. And I thought, oh, okay, let's make that happen. And it's interesting going to some of those big events. I almost go on autopilot because they are big events, and at the same time, these are human beings. They happen to have become very successful in their field, and I've met a lot of people who've become very successful in their field, and I like connecting with people on that real human level. So, and not being, as best of my ability, to not be a big fangirl when I'm at them. So I got to go to this event, and it was filled with some unbelievably amazing people. I mean, there were, doctors and scientists and activists and musicians and actors and comedians. And so it was people from all spectrums of talent who were in the room. And when we discovered who was going to be at our table, we both sat down and we started doing some research. And one of the people who was going to be at our table was Fred Swaniker, who is the founder of the African Leadership University. And so during one of the breaks, during the dinner, I decided that I would go over and I would ask him, can you tell me a bit more about the leadership practices and principles that you're using? What models of leadership are you doing? I'm really fascinated with what you've started there. And from that conversation, he said, oh, can I have your card? And I thought, sure, you can have my card. All right. And I gave it to him, and he followed up and suggested that he and I have a call at some point. And in the meantime, there is this opportunity to be an expert in residence, and you might want to check that out. And he connected me with the person who does the preliminary interviews. And I thought, yeah. It was interesting, Alnoor, because at first I looked on the website. I looked at the website before. I hadn't known about the residence, the expert in residence opportunity and program. And when I did go and look, it was all like Rhodes Scholars and CEOs and all this stuff. And I thought, I'm Margo from Calgary running a one-person business. I'm a CEO of one at that point. And I thought, well, why not? Why not? And even though it scared me, I committed to myself at the beginning of 2018 that if it scared me and it wasn't life-threatening, do it. Because there was something for me to learn. Fear serves a purpose for us. It protects us. And sometimes fear can crop up over things that it isn't actually saving us from anything dangerous. It's simply us pulling back from something that might be a little anxiety provoking. So I decided to go ahead, have that call. By the end of the call, she had said, we need you here. I said, okay. She said, when can you be here? I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe November. And I asked which of the two campuses, and she mentioned Mauritius. And then I Googled Mauritius, and it's this beautiful tropical island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And I thought, Calgary in November, Mauritius in November. I think I'm going to go. And it meant doing a lot of shifts. I had to make sure that client work was going to be looked after while I was away. I stepped away from InceptionU for a month, and I was leaving my family for a month because my family couldn't come with me. They, where everyone was in their lives, it wasn't an option. Even though they could have come with me, they couldn't come with me. And so that was a big thing, to step away from all of that and to take this chance on something I didn't really know what it would be. And I knew it was a door I had to step through. And so I did that. And if I was going to the other side of the world, I thought, well, it could be 2 to 4 weeks. I'm going to take 4 weeks. So I got to be there for a month. And it was doing master classes, so doing shorter form courses of some of the communication work and the career work that I do. It was doing one-on-one with a lot of the students, and I was also working with the staff in the organization once the students were into exams. And it was one of the most rewarding, fulfilling experiences I've had. And I talk about it was life-changing because it was the self-discoveries I had in pausing my regular routine and in getting a chance to see very different perspectives of organizations, of education, of talent development, and of myself through that experience, that when I came home, I made some pretty significant changes in my work and my life as a result of what I learned and working to integrate that into my life rather than that was an experience, okay, done, come back. I decided to take a lot of what I learned and start applying it here.
That's fantastic. Now, I also read your LinkedIn article of you actually, when you decided to jump both feet in, and I think you were in the plane, and that post went viral. And you talk about really about how you show up, and you talk about how you plunge in, not knowing the answers. I think that's really important for the viewers to know because we are going back, and this is a new normal, but we don't know. And what we don't know, and yet, what kind of pivots did you make at that time? What is one key thing you can share with our viewers? And then I'd like to go to Jen's question about unlearning, because that is also on your LinkedIn with one of the companies. So it's just incredible about all the information I'm getting from you. So please do share with us a little bit about that first.
About pivoting and how to do that, or?
Yes, pivoting, and especially about that LinkedIn post where you're chatting about you have no idea what you're doing. I read your post. I do comment, by the way. Not just like I tease Margo a lot. I've ruffled Margo's feathers too. But yeah, do share, please, Margo.
So I guess one thing is, open to possibilities. There's a reason I named my first company that, right? It's I get energized by change. I'm quite comfortable in the unknown, and again, do pay attention to that sensation of fear, of anxiety, to test, is this something I really should legitimately be afraid of or not before making change? And so that's part of is knowing and understanding my own nature. And some people are more responsive to change than others. The other thing, though, is even if I wasn't as comfortable with change, one of the things that I've seen, and whether it's myself, whether it's people that I've worked with, is the better you know yourself, the better you know those internal resources you have, the more readily you can consciously draw on them. And that's what I do in those times of I'm going into the unknown, is I'm really clear on what is available to me that's transferable to anywhere that I can go. And I've seen that in the most successful people that I've encountered, it's a similar thing. They know their resources. They know they can tap into them at any time. And when they're going into those kinds of situations, then they know what they can draw on in order to navigate even the complete unknown. And so it's doing some of that, Socrates said, know thyself. It's doing that deep work. It's doing that self-reflection. And whether you do it on your own by journaling, whether it's something that you actually go and you actively seek an opportunity to be guided through some of that work, because it is challenging to acknowledge for ourselves the gifts we have, and especially where our talents lie. Where our talents lie, it's so easy. What I've seen and what I've observed over and over and over again is that people just kind of think, well, it's not a big deal, and they take it for granted. And it's to be able to say, actually, that is a big deal, that is valuable, that does contribute, and that is sought after, so that we can really start to harness them and embrace those talents and abilities we do have that we can apply to being able to make a pivot and to navigate uncertainty as effectively as we can.
Brilliant. Oh my gosh, brilliant. And so let's quickly go to Jen's question. And Jen, she's saying, Margo, can you please speak the idea of unlearning? What have you done to unlearn in your career in order to create new opportunities? And that is brilliant. Thank you, Jen. Yes.
So what have I had to unlearn? Thanks for the questions, Jen. I had to unlearn that where I have come from dictates where I'm going. I've had to unlearn that any education, certification, anything that I have means that there's only one path that I can follow. And I've also had to unlearn a ton about what it even takes to learn, what humans need in order to be able to learn, and what's affected some of my understanding of the world. So knowing my biases, I'm not going to necessarily be able to completely get rid of them. We do have hard wiring in our brains, much like fear, that serves a purpose. If it didn't serve a purpose, evolution would have gotten rid of these things a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And yet, recognizing that what I understand to be true may, with those biases, with cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias and all that, I might not have the full picture. And so I've had to sometimes unlearn what I believe to be true, to be open to see or create the opportunities to go forward. And unlearning in terms of the second layer to Jen's question about why is unlearning key to shifting the economy in Alberta, I think we need to, there's an opportunity for us to unlearn what we thought the path was, what we thought, that there was a main road to economic success, and shift from the or to the and. So it's not about getting rid of what's here. It's about adding to what's here. And then what opportunities can be created when we start thinking and rather than it's this or that. When we add to it, what opportunities can we create? And then what kinds of things, I'm digging in a lot into regenerative economics and circular cycles and circular economics and feedback loops, and not thinking that things are all a straight line. That's not how life works. So unlearning this idea that things go A, B, C, and relearning that it could go A to J, and starting to look at things from a systems point of view so that we can seize opportunities and reduce threats that will actually see Alberta continue to thrive into the future.
Wow. I was having a conversation yesterday. I decided that, I always talk about life skills, and what happened 5 months ago, I'm not that same person. I'm not the same person 5 days ago that I am today. And 5 hours ago, even 5 minutes ago, because I've absorbed through osmosis what you've been sharing as well. And that has been triggering so many places in the neural pathways and all of that. And it was a conversation with Nima Dorji, a wonderful Tibetan. I even now met his wife for the first time. And the first time I met him was at the APEGA, Alberta Petroleum Engineering and Geophysics Conference, where I was delivering personality dimensions, shifting for engineers. And he was the president at that time, and he sat and I was like, but we had a lovely conversation on that day, and I've met him a few times, and he too spoke about exactly what what you've shared right now, is that it's not or, it's and. We do have those answers, and how are we going to change is by really being open and being and saying that, that is the way we did it now, and that circular piece that you are very good at. You've shared that with me, that model before as well. Is there any way on maybe a blog people can get to that and learn about that?
Sorry, you cut out for a second around the regenerative economics and things like that, where they can go to look. Is that what?
Do you have a? Yes, or the circular piece that you're talking about. Is there any way on either, do you have a blog, or is it on a LinkedIn post or an article that people can go look at?
There are some of the people, and big caveat, economics being one of the areas that I consistently thought, oh my gosh, I don't know enough about this to be competent. So I started digging into economics and working to understand it in a leadership course that I took gosh, that was 2012, to try and understand it. And so I follow, and I've been reading a lot from, there's some really amazing, they happen to be women who are putting stuff out in the world right now. So if you want to dig into and understand it, I strongly recommend reading anything written by Kate Raworth, Rawrth. Also Mariana Mazzucato. So they are both based out of the UK. And they're talking about, unlearning. So back to Jen's question again, unlearning what we think value is. What is contribution? Unlearning and rethinking our addiction to growth, right? And knowing, so is that, and unlearning what is progress, what is success, and redefining what that can be. And then when we do that, that's when we can get to that end. So those are the two that I would really, that I'm in the throes of reading them. Also, if you're looking to understand systems and how do systems work and how do we take that kind of a systemic approach to doing things. So when we're looking at, even with the program that we're running, when we're looking at how to do things and how people learn, we're also thinking of what are opportunities for them to be learning through a project so that they can demonstrate what they've learned so that it's meaningful. And then are there opportunities in the ecosystem to help connect people with, if there are opportunities for these learners to engage with what's actually happening out in the tech sector right now. They're learning, plus the company's benefiting, and plus some problems actually possibly getting solved. And so it meets a whole bunch of things at the same time, instead of thinking that we only take a singular approach to, or a modular sectored type approach to things. So that's part of how we do it. If you want to learn about systems thinking, it's an intense book, and it's a really good book called The Systems View of Life. I strongly recommend it. I'm still chipping away at it because he goes into all sorts of fields. And it's about that intersectionality too. What happens when you have these, otherwise what we tend to look at as separate, when you actually bring them together, what opportunities get created from the overlap of things that are seemingly not connected. And that's where we can be super creative and find or create opportunities in that space. I missed Jen's other question that popped up there.
Yeah, so it is 12:31. I'm okay to stay some more if it's okay with you. Jen's other question was, just one second, I'll pull it back up again. Here, if you can please share examples of people you have met and worked with, coached, who have stepped into uncertainty and navigated successfully for themselves. And the work that you're doing right now, they are individuals who come with careers that they thought they were going to be there forever, but with what has happened, that had that unfortunate wake-up call that nothing is permanent, and how you have been able to navigate all of their stories in helping them pivot as well. And so many, I can name so many examples of individuals because I have worked on a few of the programs there, and so I could really name those. Hi, Margo.
Hi. Yeah, you cut out for a sec. I mean, Jen, the number of examples I have, whether it's from the program we're currently running, the EvolveU program, whether it's from the work that I've done over my time working with people, particularly I focused, much of my client work was with people in the energy sector, and watching transitions that people have made. Sometimes those transitions were based on, a choice that they made to step away from what they were doing, whether that was moving companies, moving roles. Sometimes those decisions and that pushed into uncertainty was through no choice of their own, which is many of the learners that we're working with in the EvolveU program. And so watching someone go from being an oil rig worker who had worked and progressed and been promoted from the entry level positions through to leading on the rigs, and is now a software developer who he started his own company. We've watched people come in with people who tried other kinds of education and they knew it wasn't quite a fit and they weren't sure what to do and didn't want to invest their time and energy until they knew it was the right fit for them. And then they come into the program and they end up having that opportunity to discover themselves as well as build technical competence. I've seen people go from carpentry to high tech. I saw someone make a significant life change that while she stayed with the same company, she was able to get herself into a life situation that meant she was even able to deliver higher value to the company because she learned about herself. So she was working in downtown Calgary and thought, oh, this is like maybe in 10 years from now, when I'm able to retire, maybe I can see if I can afford to buy that second house, and then we'll retire and I'll go there and then I'll live the life I want. And by the end of the career work that we did, she sat back and she thought, I'm going to propose to them that I actually do that now. And a year later, she sends me a picture and says, if you ever wonder if the career exploration process delivers results for people, here's a picture of my view. And it was looking out over a beautiful lake in the mountains. Here's a picture of my supervisor. She knew she wanted to work with her dog, but she didn't want to own a doggy daycare. And I said, well, does it have to be that direct? Have you ever thought of working in an office where they allow you to have your pets at work? They have stuff like that? I said, sure. So now she's working from home and her supervisor is her dog. And so she's able to get this fit that worked and she was able to deliver even greater value for the company. Now, hats off to the company that they were open to that as well and recognize the talent. And that with this self-knowledge and being able to say, hey, here's what I think I need, and here's how I can still contribute, and here's what it would look like for me. Can we work something out? With that, that's a different conversation than going and saying, I'm not happy here, right? So she was able to craft what that transition can look like so that they could see that this was also a win for them, and her whole life